I gave her everything. My love, my trust, my support. I believed in her dreams and stood by her side when she worked late nights, telling myself it was all for our future. But I was a fool. The promotion she got, the confidence she gained, it wasn't just from hard work. It was from him, her boss. To all my loyal subscribers, thank you for your support. Don't forget to turn on your notifications so you never miss an update. If you're new here, subscribe now to help bring more inspiring and dramatic stories your way. Now, let me take you back to where it all began. I met Lauren in college. She was ambitious, full of life, and determined to make something of herself. From the moment I saw her, I knew she was special. We fell in love quickly, and for years, we built a life together. I worked as an IT consultant, and she chased her dreams in corporate business. When she got the job offer at Westwood Financial Group, I was beyond proud. It was a step up, better pay, a high-status company, and an opportunity to grow. But with success came sacrifices. At first, I didn't mind the late nights. I understood that she had to prove herself in a competitive industry. It's just the first few months, she assured me. Once I settle in, things will calm down. But they didn't. She started bringing work home, spending hours on her laptop, even on weekends. We barely had time together, but I told myself it was temporary. Then, she started mentioning Ethan Cole, her boss. He's brilliant, she'd say at dinner, eyes lighting up. He built this company from the ground up. You should hear the way he talks about leadership. It's inspiring. At first, I was happy for her. Having a great boss meant she was learning from the best. But as the weeks passed, his name came up more often. Too often. Ethan thinks I have potential. Ethan says I should apply for the leadership program. Ethan believes in me. Not once did she mention me believing in her. It wasn't just her words that changed. It was everything. She started dressing differently. Sleek dresses, expensive heels, a confidence in her walk that wasn't there before. She spent more time in front of the mirror, fixing her hair and makeup. You look amazing, I told her one night as she got ready for company dinner. She smiled, but it wasn't the same smile she used to give me. It was distant, distracted. Then came a first lie. She told me the dinner was for senior staff only. But when I checked Westwood's social media later that night, I saw a group photo. She was in it, laughing, holding a glass of wine. And right beside her, his hand almost too close to her waist, was Ethan Cole. I told myself I was overthinking. I loved her. She loved me. That was enough. But something shifted between us. She started keeping her phone face down. She worked even later, making excuses when I asked why. And worst of all, she stopped reaching for me at night. One evening, I surprised her by picking her up from work. I waited outside in the car, watching as employees trickled out of the glass doors. Then I saw her. Lauren stepped out, walking beside Ethan. He was tall, charming, dressed in a sharp navy suit. They laughed about something, her hand lightly touching his arm. I clenched the steering wheel. She never looked at me like that anymore. When she got in the car, she barely reacted. "Oh, you're here," she said, like it was an inconvenience. I forced a smile. "Thought I'd surprise you." She nodded, but didn't say much. Instead, she pulled out her phone and started texting. Who was she texting? I didn't ask. I was afraid of the answer. That night, as she slept beside me, I lay awake staring at the ceiling. Something wasn't right. And deep down I knew this wasn't just about a job. It was about a man. I tried to ignore the feeling growing inside me. The uneasiness, the doubt. I told myself I was being paranoid, that I was overthinking things. But deep down, I knew something had changed between us. Lauren was different. She was distant, distracted, always on her phone. When I kissed her, she turned her head slightly, as if my touch didn't feel the same anymore. When I asked about her day, she gave vague answers, avoiding eye contact. And the worst part? Ethan Cole was always in the conversation. At first, it was just admiration. Ethan is a genius. Ethan thinks I should apply for the leadership program. Ethan believes I have what it takes. It wasn't my encouragement she needed anymore. It was his. One night, she came home later than usual. I was waiting in the living room, pretending to scroll through my phone, but really, I was watching the clock. 11:42 p.m. She walked in, heels clicking on the hardwood floor, her face glowing from what I could only assume was a great evening. She wasn't exhausted like she used to be. She was excited. Late night, I asked, trying to keep my voice casual. She nodded, kicking off her heels. Ethan took us out for drinks after work. Just a small team gathering. I stared at her, feeling something tighten in my chest. Ethan took them out. Not the company. Ethan. And she was glowing because of it. A few weeks later, she dropped the news at dinner. "There's a conference in Chicago next weekend," she said casually, twirling her fork in her pasta. "Ethan thinks it's a great opportunity for me to network." Chicago. I repeated, setting down my glass. "For how long?" 3 days. "It's mandatory for the leadership candidates." I should have been happy for her. I should have been proud. But the way she said his name, so effortlessly, as if he was more than just a boss, made my stomach turn. "Are you going alone?" I asked, already knowing the answer. She barely hesitated. "No, Ethan's leading the trip." Of course he was. That weekend, she packed her best dresses, the kind she used to wear for me. The night before she left, I reached for her in bed, trying to find some kind of connection, some proof that I was still the man she wanted. But she turned away. "I'm exhausted," she whispered. So I let her go. The night she was away, I couldn't sleep. I stared at the ceiling, thinking about her in a hotel room with him. At 1 a.m., my phone buzzed. I grabbed it instantly, hoping it was Lauren. But it wasn't a text. It was a charge notification from our shared credit card. $200, hotel rooftop bar. I sat up straight, my heart pounding. I clicked on the details. Westwood Financial Group, Chicago, 2 guests. 2 guests. I gripped the phone so hard my knuckles turned white. I wanted to call her. I wanted to ask. But I already knew the answer. Lauren wasn't alone. I didn't sleep that night. I kept staring at the charge notification, reading the words over and over again as if they would somehow change. 2 guests. The room was dark, but my mind was wide awake, running through every possibility. Maybe it was a business dinner. Maybe it was a mistake. Maybe... No. I knew exactly what it meant. Lauren was with him. The next morning, I sat at the kitchen table, my coffee untouched. My phone was face up on the table, as if I was daring it to ring. And then it did. Her name flashed on the screen. I let it ring twice before answering. Hey, she said, her voice light, casual, as if nothing had happened. "Just wanted to check in. How's your weekend going?" My grip tightened around the phone. "How's my weekend going?" She was calling me from a hotel with another man and asking about my weekend. I took a slow breath. "It's fine. That's good." She paused. "It's been really busy here. Long meetings, lots of networking." I almost laughed. "Yeah? How was the rooftop bar?" Silence. For the first time in a long time, she had no words. "Excuse me," she finally said, but her voice had changed. "I saw the charge, Lauren." My voice was calm, but my hands were shaking. 2 guests. She hesitated, then let out a nervous laugh. "Oh, that... Yeah, Ethan and I grabbed a drink after one of the meetings. But it was nothing, just work talk." She was lying. I could hear it in the way her voice cracked, in the way she rushed through the sentence. I closed my eyes. "Come home, Lauren." Another pause. Then, "I'll be back tomorrow as scheduled." She hung up, and I knew. The next evening, I heard her key in the lock. She walked in, suitcase rolling behind her, looking as put together as ever. I stood in the living room, arms crossed. "How was Chicago?" She blinked, clearly caught off guard by my tone. "It was good. Productive." I nodded slowly. "You sure?" She set her bag down and sighed. "Look, if this is about the bar, I already told you. It was just drinks. You don't need to make a big deal out of this." I stared at her, searching for something, guilt, regret, anything. But all I saw was a woman who had already decided that I wasn't worth telling the truth to. My chest felt hollow. "Are you sleeping with him?" Her breath hitched. For a second, just a second, I saw panic flash across her face. Then she scoffed. "Are you serious?" I took a step forward. "Yes, I'm serious." Her eyes darted away. "You're being ridiculous." "Am I?" I let out a bitter laugh. Late nights, secretive phone calls, business trips, and now hotel bars? If I were doing this with my female boss, would you believe me? She crossed her arms, her jaw tightening. "I'm not having this conversation." And with that, She grabbed her suitcase and walked past me, heading straight to the bedroom. But she didn't say no. She never denied it. And that was all I needed to know. Lauren's avoidance told me everything I needed to know. She didn't defend herself, didn't try to reassure me, didn't even lie convincingly. She just walked away. That night, I sat on the couch, staring at our wedding photo on the wall. The smiles, the vows, the promises, it all felt like a distant memory. I wanted to believe this was salvageable, that there was some explanation other than the one my gut was screaming at me. But deep down, I knew the truth, and I needed proof. I didn't sleep. I couldn't. Instead, I did something I never thought I'd do. I checked her phone. She was in the shower, the sound of water masking my movements. Her passcode hadn't changed. Whether there was arrogance or carelessness, I didn't know. I opened her messages, and there it was. Ethan Cole, a conversation thread, pinned at the top. I scrolled up, my pulse pounding. I can't stop thinking about last night. You looked incredible in that dress. Wish I could wake up next to you. My fingers trembled as I kept reading. The text painted a picture I didn't want to see. Late-night meetings that weren't meetings. Drinks that turned into something more. A relationship that had been going on right under my nose. And then, the last message, sent just hours before she landed back home. I miss you already. I set the phone down, my chest tight. Lauren stepped out of the bathroom, wrapped in a towel, her hair damp. She froze when she saw me holding her phone. What are you doing? Her voice was sharp, defensive. I lifted the screen so she could see it. How long? She swallowed hard. Give me my phone. How long, Lauren? My voice was dangerously calm. Her lips parted, but no words came out. And in that silence, I got my answer. I stood up slowly, every muscle in my body tense. It wasn't just one night, was it? She didn't move. I let out a bitter laugh. God, I was so stupid. All those late nights, the business trips. You weren't even trying to hide it, were you? Tears welled up in her eyes, but I wasn't sure if they were from guilt or just the fear of being caught. I didn't mean for this to happen, she whispered. Then what did you mean for it to be? My voice cracked. Because from where I'm standing, it looks like you chose him. She exhaled shakily. I didn't want to hurt you. I ran a hand through my hair, letting out a dry chuckle. Well, congratulations. You failed. Silence stretched between us. The weight of everything we had built, our marriage, our trust, was crumbling right before us. Then she said the words that shattered me completely. I love him. A sharp pain shot through my chest. The room suddenly felt too small, too suffocating. I took a step back, my voice barely above a whisper. Then why are you still here? She stared at me, her lips trembling. I didn't wait for an answer. I grabbed my keys and walked out the door. I needed air. I needed space. Because the woman I had loved, the woman I had built a life with, had just told me she loved another man. And there was no coming back from that. I drove without a destination, my hands gripping the wheel so tightly my knuckles turned white. The city lights blurred as I tried to make sense of everything. Lauren, Ethan, the affair, and the words that had shattered me completely. I love him. I pulled into an empty parking lot, staring blankly at the dashboard. My chest felt hollow, like something had been ripped out of me. How had we ended up here? How had the woman I built a life with become a stranger overnight? I wanted to scream, to punch something, to do anything that would make this pain go away. But all I could do was sit there and accept the truth. When I finally walked back into the house, Lauren was sitting on the couch, her hands clasped together. She looked up at me with red-rimmed eyes, but I felt nothing. No anger, no sadness, just emptiness. We need to talk, I said, my voice emotionless. She nodded. I sat across from her, resting my elbows on my knees. Be honest with me. How long? She hesitated, then whispered, 6 months. I closed my eyes, letting the weight of it settle in. 6 months. Half a year of lies. Half a year of coming home to me while giving her heart to someone else. Why? I finally asked. She exhaled shakily. I don't know. It just happened. I let out a bitter laugh. It didn't just happen, Lauren. You made choices. Every single day, you chose him over me. Tears streamed down her face. I never wanted to hurt you, but you did. I leaned forward, my voice eerily calm. And now we can't go back. She wiped her tears, sniffling. What are you saying? I swallowed hard. I'm saying we're done. Her breath hitched. You don't mean that. I met her gaze. Yes. Ido. The days that followed were a blur of silence, unspoken words, and painful realizations. Laura moved out. She didn't beg, didn't fight. Maybe she had already accepted it, too. I spent the first few nights in an empty house, surrounded by memories of a life that no longer existed. The scent of her perfume still lingered in the bedroom. Her coffee mug sat untouched on the kitchen counter, but slowly the pain dulled. And in its place, something else grew. Acceptance, freedom, and the understanding that sometimes losing someone isn't the worst thing that can happen. Months later, I ran into an old friend at a cafe. She asked how I'd been, if I was seeing anyone. I smiled, a real, genuine smile. No, I said, taking a sip of my coffee. But I'm happy, and for the first time in a long time, I truly was. That's the end.